Hi, in this video I'm going to read to you the second fairy tale of 1,000,000,001 Dirham financial fairy tales. It's called Black Monday and the Seventh Crisis. It's based on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And it starts on page 15 and ends on page 18, which you can read out on the website erikvrij.nl /free download as well. Black Monday and the Seventh Crisis. Once upon a time there was a financial crisis. Her name was Black Monday. She ruled a world of misery. Black Monday was ambitious. She enjoyed her fame for causing financial misery. She was indeed the proud mother of all financial crises. One bad day in the market, Black Monday was hurting some investors, whilst looking at her Bloomberg terminal. Defaults by subprime mortgagors showed as dots scattered around the screen. Their blood turned the numbers red. Soon after, the market turned miserable. She watched with pleasure, albeit wary of others being more miserable. Each day she would look in the mirror and ask, "Mirror, mirror on Wall Street, who is the blackest, most miserable financial crisis of them all?" Each time the mirror would answer her, "Thou, O Black Monday, are the blackest of them all." This pleased Black Monday greatly, as she knew the mirror could speak nothing but the truth. One morning when she asked, she was shocked when the mirror answered, "Thou, O Black Monday, are pretty black, it is true, but more black by far is the credit crunch of 2007-2008. Black Monday flew into a jealous rage and ordered a huntsman out to take the credit crunch 2007-2008 off the world's history. The huntsman did its best to eradicate the credit crunch of 2007-2008, but did not manage. The credit crunch of 2007-2008 fled into an obscure place in history. She saw 7 miniature traces of misery, neatly organized, and fell asleep. After dark, the 7 occupants of the obscure place came back and found the credit crunch of 2007-2008 in their corner. The first one, the Great Depression of 1929-1939, said, "Who is taking my place in history?" The second one, the Suez Crisis of 1956, said, "Who is hurting the investors I heard before?" The third one, the Latin American debt crisis of 1994-2002, said, "Who managed to strike so many people internationally?" The fourth one, the Russian economic crisis of 1992-1997, said, "Who caused the crisis in so many currencies?" The fifth one, the East Asian economic crisis of 1979-2001, said, "Who managed to cause all this pain in just one day?" The sixth one, the Tulip Mania of 1637, said, "Who triggered such a modern crisis?" The seventh one, the Credit Crisis of 1772, said, "Who is trying to imitate me?" He looked further and saw the credit crunch of 2007-2008. Oh hell, he cried. "What a great crisis." The next morning, the 7 crises went out to occupy their places in history for the day. They warned the credit crunch of 2007-2008 not to open the door to their obscure place in history. The next afternoon, the credit crunch of 2007-2008 heard a knock on the door of the obscure place in history. "Who is there?" he asked. A man stood in front. "I'm a reporter of the Financial Times," he said. "I would like to interview you. You'll be famous." "I'd like to be famous," said the credit crunch of 2007-2008. He did not recognize it was Black Monday, dressed up as a reporter. They made themselves comfortable in the obscure place in history. "Here," said the reporter, and planted the delicious tropical drink in front of the credit crunch 2007-2008. "I'll make you famous and get you out of this obscure place in history." "I like that," said the credit crunch of 2007-2008. He gulped down some of the tropical drink. "I like that too." The reporter smiled and started the interview. But then, a few questions into the interview, the credit crunch of 2007-2008 collapsed. The reporter smiled. The credit crunch of 2007-2008 would stay in its obscure place in history. Later, the 7 crises returned to their various places in history and found the reporter next to the credit crunch of 2007-2008. They were shocked and chased the reporter away through various parts of history until he vanished. They placed the credit crunch of 2007-2008 into a glass cover of a history book and stayed at his side. One day, a real reporter of the Financial Times passed by and looked in awe at the collapsed body of the credit crunch of 2007-2008. He immediately took his laptop, logged on to the news center, and revived the credit crunch of 2007-2008. The credit crunch of 2007-2008 soon featured in headlines of media around the world, showing, reflecting on, and evaluating the pain and misery it caused in every detail. Black Monday watched it in agony and lived miserably ever after.